Thank you very much. I think great. So my name again is Leslie Maoli Aglanu from the Kumasi Center for Collaborative Research in Tropical Medicine in Kumasi, Ghana, and also a PhD student at the University of Groningen at the University Medical Center in the Netherlands. So following up, we are looking at, David has presented a very good outline of the challenges we are facing in Africa. So it's more or less giving a good platform for me to build up on. So as following up is, Africa has been one of the regions that is suffering a lot from snakebite environment, with up to 500,000 snake cases occurring. And the main problem is that antivenom is really, really scarce, and less than 1% of those who actually need it have access to it. In Ghana, we also have a similar challenge. Snakebite has been one of the most neglected tropical diseases that has received little attention in the country, even though facility-based incidents have showed a mortality rate of as high as 17%. And now this emphasis also goes further to highlight the challenge that David made earlier, that most of these studies are at a sub-regional level, at the facility-based level, and we do not have really a high level, national level data to see the burden or the challenge that we have. So we decided to go to expand and then see what the national challenge is by seeking to provide critical evidence of the epidemiological and then the geographic dynamics of snakebite burden in Ghana, and to virtually work on attaining the goal by the WHO to have the problem of snake bites, the disability and death by 50% in 2030. We need to actually know what the challenge is on the ground at a national level. So we decided to go as an exploratory study to infer the association between predictors that are associated with snake bites in Ghana, using data from the District Health Information Management System, which David mentioned earlier. So it's a facility-based health system that health facilities record or report health issues to. So we extracted data from this system, and a total of 2,148 facilities reported. And then we collected data between 2015 and 2020 to analyze and see what the epidemiology and the distribution of snakebite is in Ghana. Now, from this 6-year period, we found approximately 60,000 cases being reported to the DIMS system, which translates to an average of 10,000, almost an average of 10,000 cases that is recorded yearly. And you could see the trend from 2015 to 2020. And significantly, you notice in 2017, the cases declined and then picked up right afterwards. It's also important to know this is when snakebite was actually declared as a neglected tropical disease by the WHO, which could probably influence some of the uptake that was reflected. Now, also gender disparity was quite significant, where males recorded significantly very high as against females. I think most studies have reported this. And then the age distribution also showed that those between the ages of 10 to 49 actually reports most of the cases. From the regional distributions, we notice in Ghana, we have 16 regions. So from the time period, the 6-year period that we looked at, the Upper West region, which is located at the northwestern corner of the country, recorded a total of 13.6% of all the cases. And the Ashanti region, which is located in the mid-section, where I'm actually based, recorded 13% of the cases, which is the second. It's also important to note that the Upper West region is predominantly a very rural region and considered much poorer compared to the Ashanti region, which is more urbanized. So it is important to look at these two dynamics of the regional distributions of snakebite. But however, about three of the regions, the Bono East, the Hafo, and the T regions, which are located within the middle belt, recorded very low cases, representing less than 7% of all the total cases recorded within the time period. Now, the seasonality and the monthly distribution of snake bites, we notice quite significant disparity between the dry season and then the rainy season. So in Ghana, since we are in a tropical climate, we predominantly have two main seasons, the dry and then the rainy season. So clearly the rainy season seems to record much higher cases, which translates to where most of the agrarian community actually engage in their farming activities, thereby exposing them much more to snake bite cases. Within the monthly distribution, you can also see right from March to August reporting the highest number of cases, where the cases really spiked there. So this is actually also the period where most of the agrarian community starts preparing their land and then cultivating their land. So therefore, we see the higher number of cases reflecting there. But similarly, in September to November, we see another spike there, which was quite important for us to identify, because most of the farmers or most of those in agrarian areas also leave their crops to really dry before they go in harvesting. Therefore, that also explains some of the spikes that we witnessed during that period of the year. So trying to look at the incidence quartile distribution in the country, we realize the Upper West region, which is located here, the deep red corner, signified a very strong outlier of the incidence in the country. It's also noticed that we have about 25% of all the regions recording about 60 per 100,000 cases as the incidence reported in the entire country. From the box plot here, you see that the Upper West region is very significant outlier way up here. And then within the plots, we see the lowest region, which recorded 8 per 100,000 cases, which is the Greater Accra region, which virtually houses the regional capital, recording the lowest incidence. But the Savannah region, which is also up in the northern part here, recorded very high incidence of snake bites. So from ranging between 8 per 100,000 to 167 per 100,000, we see the wide disparity between the cases or the incidence of snake bites in the country. Now, looking at the three geographical distribution in the country, we divided it into the savanna belt, the coastal belt, and the forest belt. Now, we noticed the coastal and forest belts recorded much lower, but the savanna belt recorded very high incidence, which is about 76 per 100,000 population. This is quite very significant, as we noticed from the test we witnessed. But then going down to the gender distribution, males recorded over 104 compared to females, which was 65 per 100,000 population. So this aspect so tells us to look at how the burden or the incidence of snake bites really increases as one moves from the coastal area to the northern sector or the savanna sector. In the savanna sector, as already cleared, most of those places is just characterized with grassland and sparse trees. So that makes it also easy for humans to get human environment interaction, and therefore more conflict with snake bites, since majority of the population in that region are also in the agrarian economy. Therefore, the conflict between animals and snakes in this region is very high, which we have noticed from the incidence trend. Now, going further to look at the multiple poisson regression to try and see what some of the risk factors that we are noticing. Clearly, the males showed a very significant compared to females. And then within the age distribution, we notice those between the ages of 20 to 49 having significant p-values. It's worth noting that this is also the most active age group in the country. So those are those that are economic active and actually engage in production activities, engage in agrarian activities, and more curious, and also venturing into the environment. So that explains that. But then from coding other variable constants, the seasonality showed no significant difference between the two. This could partly be explained by the fact that most of the high prone risk areas start tilling or preparing their lands in the dry season where the rains haven't started. And so they still get much more exposure, which is normally between February, March to April. That's which so characterized as part of the dry season. Then from May, June going, the rains begin. So this distribution or this characteristics we see here probably could contribute to why we have seen no significance between the dry and in the rainy season. And then the geographical belts that I've seen, clearly the savanna belts recording a very high difference compared to the coastal and the forest belts. So it's more or less so emphasizing the point that the more you move from the coastal area to the savanna area, then the risk of snakebite increases. This is also reflected in the economic distribution of the country, where the southern part or the coastal part seem to be more affluent, have more built environment than the savanna region, where the people are more close in contact with the physical environment and virtually depend on the environment for their sustenance. So following that, we could realize that in these three distributions of snakebite is actually a disease that afflicts the poor and vulnerable population in the community who are mostly close proximity with natural environment. So it's also important to also find out how to actually meet this challenge as presented by David in the earlier presentation. These are the people who are poor and have less access to antivenoms, have limited access to health facilities that even have the stock of antivenoms. So our results provided the national incidence of snakebite, which we recorded as 35 per 100,000 as a national incidence. But then when we go down to the regional distribution, we see as high as 170 per 100,000 population, which is very significant. So this further explains or gives us the background to go further into more details to understand an in-depth epidemiological survey that we need to further explain the distribution, to further understand the burden, and also look at the further consequences that snakebite victims are facing in the most high-risk regions of the country, and further, hopefully, probably expand this to other regions to find out these challenges that snakebite victims are facing, particularly in the rural and less advanced sectors of the country. So I will stop here and thank you very much for your attention, and wait for any comments or questions that may come in. Thank you very much.